many stages do you have?
So they are typically like 3 stages.
3 stages.
The first stage is when it has just sprouted out of the ground. And at that stage, you can't really do anything much because then you risk either covering it up with soil or cutting it in the process of weeding. And then the second stage is where we see now, where we start now the weeding, the first weeding and the heaping of the soil. And then we have the third stage when the flowering starts. And at that point, we already have tubers forming underneath. And so at that point, we do not do a lot of, we will have done most of the management practices, especially in terms of weeding and heaping of soil. And then now we'll just leave them to just produce the tubers and then grow.
An everyday food, especially for urban dwellers, consumed as food, chips, or as crisps, is both a staple food and source of income to the farmers. 60% of the crop is produced in the highlands of southwestern Uganda in the districts of Kabale and Chisoro, but they are mainly grown in Kabale and Kapshora. In the central region, they are casually grown on the hills around Mubende and Mityana with an estimated production between 800,000 to 1 million metric tons per annum. Several potato varieties are planted, and these can be differentiated by texture, shape, color, taste, and size. There are potato varieties that are good for cooking, and there are others that are good for making wedges. Therefore, you need to find out which variety your clients want, and then plant those. Make sure that you choose varieties that are disease resistant, quality of the potato seeds, and take little time to reach maturity. Irish potatoes grow well in areas that receive regular rainfall and whose temperatures range between 10 degrees Celsius and 23 degrees Celsius. The demand for Irish potatoes is estimated to be over 850,000 metric tons per annum, with urban demand outpacing rural demand. With the increasing urbanization, changing eating habits by the majority youth, and high population growth, chips consumption is said to rise by 50% over the planned period, offering the potato industry huge opportunities for enterprise development and economic growth. Overall, a farmer needs at least 2 million Ugandan shillings to set up an acre of Irish potatoes, minus the cost of land. And by 3 months, they are ready for harvesting. In Uganda, average yields per acre are 150 bags or 15 tons, which gives an average farm gate price earnings of about 15 million Ugandan shillings. Remember, they only bring in good money if you have the right seed.
Some of us enjoy chips. Some of you enjoy it as crisps. And some enjoy it as food on the table. But I've ever wondered where crisps or chips come from. Welcome to Farm Smart on Smart 24 TV. My name is Uchi Takahaman. And today we are looking at Irish potato farming.
My name is Joshua, General Manager of Zuri Model Farm, and once again I'm here to talk about what we do here at Zuri Model Farm and And for this specific session, we are going to look at Irish potato farming. I know that most of us enjoy Irish potatoes. Most of us are crazy about chips, about crisps, about food, Irish as food, and probably some of us don't know how this comes into play. So today we'll get a chance to learn about growing Irish potatoes right from the beginning up to when you harvest.
How many stages do you have?
So there are typically like 3 stages. The first stage is when it has just sprouted out of the ground. And at that stage, you can't really do anything much because then you risk either covering it up with soil or cutting it in the process of weeding. And then the second stage is where we see now, where we start now the weeding, the first weeding and the heaping of the soil. And then we have the third stage when the flowering starts. And at that point, we already have tubers forming underneath. And so at that point, we do not do a lot of, we will have done most of the management practices, especially in terms of weeding and heaping of soil. And then now we'll just leave them to just produce the tubers and then grow.
Now, which stage needs much attention?
So the stages that require much attention are at planting, because when you don't plant properly, when you don't plant the right seed, then you will not have a good crop. And then also at a stage when they start flowering, that's when you need to feed them a lot. The rain should be plenty. They should be fed very well in terms of nutrients, in terms of fertilizers, so that then they produce enough tubers and also fatten the tubers. So those 2 stages, the sprouting and growing stage and then the flowering stage, are the crucial stages where you need to actually give a lot of attention to the crop so that you're able to harvest a good
Yes, you have talked about maintenance,
Mm.
but you have not talked about like during like dry seasons.
Mm.
How can someone maintain the crops like, to remain healthy?
Well, we normally do our planting in the wet season. We time the wet season. This is the first season that we do, the March season, March up to May season. But then we also have the August, September, December season. So we normally time the wet season. But if you want to do it smart and also beat market prices, because right now so many people are planting, so it means that during harvest we'll have a lot of Irish potato on the market, and so a bag would be going for about 200,000, 180,000 because of the bumper harvest. So for some people who are able to think smart and farm smart, then they could actually time the end of the wet season, that's start planting around April, May, as long as you're going to irrigate your crop. And then there you would have monopoly in the market, because at the time when you're harvesting in about September, no one will have the crop. So you will be the one in the market and you can get good money out of that. But for most of that time, we do it season-wise.
It's important for farmers to know the type of soil they have in order to have the right seed for it. For example, testing the soil before planting, knowing the seed that grows in the area better, are some of the things that farmers should look out for to avoid losses. Soil testing costs between 30,000 and 50,000 per sample, whereby an acre requires at least 3 to 4 samples. Although they can grow in any type of soil for as long as there is enough access to sunlight, the best ones are the sandy loamy soils that are rich in organic matter. The site that you choose should have the soils that have the above features, and it should also be well drained, and the soil should be well aerated with a pH range of 5 to 6.4. The land needs to be well prepared, and this involves extensive ground preparation, where you need to clear the farm of all the debris in it and also plow it to make it smooth and ready for planting. You need to plow at least 3 times before the initial planting and hallow the soil until it reaches the suitable aerated state. After plowing and hollowing, mix organic manure and other fertilizers in the soil, both in the main garden and the seed bed.
I'll start with the seed selection. We buy this seed from Kabale because we have people who are specifically trained to produce a good seed of Irish potato. Because as any other crop, if you do seed that is not well selected and well bred, then you're bound to get less harvests, lots of diseases and pests. And so that's why we always make sure that we get the right seed in any project that we use. This particular seed is called Ruangume in the local language from Kabale. Ruangume, I think, means hardy. So that means it can withstand any sort of conditions, whether weather conditions or pests or diseases. As I speak now, we already have our potatoes that are already in the ground and growing. These ones you see here are about a month old now. They were planted about 4 weeks ago. We started by clearing the land. After clearing the land, we then dug what we call trenches. It's a new method of planting or seeding potatoes because I grew up seeing my parents or my grandparents heaping as if they're going to plant Irish potatoes, and then later on they would put in the potato in a heap. So these days we just do a trench, a small trench where we then come and broadcast the seed and later on cover it up. So after the trenching, we do add a little bit of manure, and there's also a lot of options that you can use. We use our chicken manure here since we have it readily available, but you can use cow dung manure, you can use goat droppings, you can use any other sort of farm manure. But you can also use the inorganics like DAP and NPK because those also boost the growth and development of the Irish. So after applying the manure in the trenches that we dug, we then put a little bit of soil on the manure so that the seed doesn't sit directly on the manure. Otherwise, it might get a burning issue on the seed and then it might not grow well. Then after putting a little bit of soil, we place our seed and then cover with a little bit of soil. And then in about a week or so, the Irish will start growing and sprouting. And then now the general maintenance starts from there. From what you're seeing right now, we've just done our first weeding, which also involves heaping the soil on the Irish. Remember, the Irish have tubers. They produce from down. So they must have enough soil around them to be able to give you enough seed or the right seed or big seed, big Irish tubers. And so right now we are doing the heaping and weeding, our first weeding. We already did the first spraying where we do a fungicide and a pesticide to prevent any kind of attack so that the Irish potato grow very well.
Adequate tilling and drainage are essential so as to increase the oxygen supply in the soil, which is a vital ingredient for Irish potato growth. Irish potatoes grow based on raised beds, which can be done in two ways: during initial land preparation or immediately after planting. Adoption of raised beds leads to improvements in soil moisture, temperature, adequate aeration, and drainage.
Part of the management practices that we do in the Irish, we have the routine spraying, and now this is in two ways. We have the spraying of fungicides and pesticides to fight or prevent diseases such as early and late blight or anthracnose. And then we also have pesticides that would fight off some pests like the whiteflies, like the bugs and all those that would otherwise interfere with the growth of the crop. And so that happens right from the Irish sprout out. It happens every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks we come and spray, or when there is need, when we find that there's a lot of infestation, then we can even do every week. But for now, I think we are still okay, so we do it on 2 weeks basis. And then the other type of spray we do is the manuring, which we normally do as a foliar. Sometimes other people use the top dressing where they bring their NPK or urea. At this stage now, you can apply your urea or your NPK as top dress to further boost the Irish potato. But looking at the size and vast of the garden, it might be a little bit expensive to get the manure, the urea or the NPK and apply here. So we go for the foliar fertilizers, which are also as good. And there are quite a number on the market that you can apply and use, and they will still give you the same effect. The other management practice, of course, every now and again, every time a potato grows in height, we then give it, we heap it up with soil. Because the longer the stem of the potato heaped with soil, the more tubes we are able to get as it matures. So I'll just use an example. This is not a real Irish potato, but at every stage of the potato, let's say this was the first stage when it has just sprouted, you heap soil up to that point and then enable the roots to start coming in that will then eventually bring the tubers. When it comes to this stage, you add soil up to that stage. Still you're creating room for more roots. If it comes up to this stage, assuming it was going upwards, you heap more soil. At the end of the day, you'll find that you have a very long stem of the potato covered up with soil, which will then produce a lot of roots and tubers, and so therefore you'll be able to get a lot of tubers from just one plant. So that is a management practice that we do probably every month, every 2 weeks still, until when they start flowering. At flowering stage, we are then sure that we've done enough of the heaping, and then we just let them grow, and we continue with the spraying of the fungicides, the pesticides, and then the herbicides.
How many times do you have to spray or take care of it?
So spraying is done every 2 weeks. But if you see that your crop is really okay, because we also don't want to use a lot of chemicals during the management, during the growing of the potato, we also don't want to use a lot of chemicals because we know the dangers, both to the environment and then to the final consumer. So for as long as you keep monitoring your crop and see that there are no pests, because the pest, there is a minimum level where you have to spray or not to spray, okay? If there is not a lot of infestation and the crop at large is able to withstand the pest infestation, then you don't have to spray all the time. But if you find that you have a very large infestation of pests or a lot of diseases in the crop, then you have to do it either weekly or 2 weeks. But where the garden is well prepared, the seed is okay, then you can even do it on a monthly basis. It also comes down to how much you've spent into the project and what you expect. So the lesser you invest in things like pesticides and fungicides, the more you're saving in terms of maintenance.
After making sure that the soil is ready for potato planting, dig holes that are about 6 inches deep and 10 to 17 inches apart, and then plant potato seeds into the holes before covering them with 2 inches of soil. Water the plants immediately after planting, but make sure that the soil never dries and should also not be waterlogged. Continue watering until they start sprouting out of the ground, and then add mulches to keep the soil moist. The potatoes should not be exposed to sunlight, as they will turn green and become too toxic.
The seeding or crop distance, the spacing, is just about 30 centimeters from one Irish potato to another, and about 90 centimeters or 60 centimeters between the rows. So this is the kind of spacing that you see, so that you have enough soil when you're doing the weeding and the heaping. The Irish potato takes about 3 months and a half to grow, or depending on the variety, it could go up to 4 months, so on the weather conditions at hand, it's about 3 or 3. You're ready to harvest and take it to the market.
Harvesting of Irish potatoes mainly depends on the season, weather conditions, and the size of the potatoes being harvested. They are always ready for harvest after 3 to 4 months after the initial planting, but one of the ways you can tell that they are ready for harvest is when the veins begin to dry and die out. Harvesting of Irish potatoes mainly depends on the season, weather conditions, and the size of the potatoes being harvested. They are always ready for harvest after 3 to 4 months after the initial planting. But one of the ways you can tell that they are ready for harvest is when the veins begin to dry and die out. When the veins turn to brown, the potatoes are ready for harvesting, and harvesting should be done on a sunny day. Harvesting of potatoes is also done when the soil is moist because it helps in avoiding abrasion of potatoes. After harvesting, the potatoes should be left to dry in the field before being collected and placed in a dry place that has shade. Potatoes that are meant for food should be kept in a cool place and should not be kept under sunlight for more than 2 hours, as this will make them become poisonous and toxic. And potatoes that are meant to act as seeds should be kept in a place where they can easily grow sprouts before the next season of planting.
We have about 1.5 acres, close to 2 acres here. We planted about 17 bags of Irish seed, and from that we hope to get, because each bag gives you about 8 to 10 bags of Irish. Each bag of seed would give you about 8 to 10 bags of Irish. That is if they've performed well. So we are taking an average of 8, and so out of our 17 bags, you can see that we'll have close to 200, over 200 bags of Irish potato that is for food. And we also have enough seed to plant our next season.
Irish potatoes are not only staple food and source of income to farmers, but also act as food to livestock. You can feed your livestock with potatoes that are damaged or too small for human consumption, but you will need to first steam them or cut them into small pieces when they are raw and then serve the animals. They are used as specimens for finding out more about characteristics of the crop, and flour from potatoes is also used in making processed foods like bread, cookies, biscuits, and baby food. Finally, Irish potatoes are used by brewery companies in making vodka. Each type of Irish potatoes grown in the country has its own market. First of all, you need to carry out a market research and find out whether the variety that you're planning or farming has a large market. Potential clients include markets, hotels, restaurants, supermarkets, and they can also be exported to other countries. Some of the things that you should consider when carrying out market research include the price you'll be selling the Irish once you harvest, transportation, and for how long we will be supplying them.
Irish potato is a very good crop because, first of all, it's a very popular food stuff on the market. You will go anywhere on the street and you'll find a lot of women doing chips, you'll go in supermarkets, you'll find there your crisps. There's no hotel or restaurant you'll go to and you will not find an Irish potato on the plate. And so that means that if you do it or if you choose to do it as a business, you're able to reap quite a lot of money.
That's it for today in Farm Smart Show. We have been looking at Irish potato farming, values, and its market. My name is Kwichi Takahaman for Smart 24 TV production.